Hey, Pathology. Hey. They gave him a desk, they gave him a check. They put a chain of office around a strangled neck. We see a black face.
Sir.
We think we gained some power, but they just hiring a guard to watch us from the tower. See, niggerism ain't a color, it's a state of mind. It's when the leader leaves the people in the back of the line. They vote for the morals, they vote for the jails. They sell their own soul just to tip the scales, begging the master for a crumb on the pie, while the original man is left outside to die. We don't want their acceptance, we don't need their praise. We need to burn the plantation and part the haze. Dr. Jones got the history, Maurice got the vision. We cutting out the cancer with a surgeon's precision. No more tuppets, no more strings, no more peasants acting like kings. It's time to build, it's time to fight, it's time to bring the hidden darkness into the light. The diagnosis is treason, the cure is identity, the method is war. Welcome to manhood, race, and culture, where we put black first.
All right. So tonight, our topic tonight that we're talking about is the pathology of treason, niggerism. All right. We want to go ahead and again, we want to welcome our bro, Mac 285. Peace and blessings. We're glad you're here. Narmer X, peace and blessings. We're glad you're here.
Welcome, everyone.
Brother Willie Rivers, peace and blessings. We are glad you're here. And we got it going on. So our topic tonight is niggerism. And before we get into the quote unquote definitions of niggerism and how we're using it, Doc, just off the top of your head, how would you describe niggerism to mean to be?
You know, it would be one of those definitions that would have multiple, kind of like you find in an encyclopedia, that there would not be any one set thing that would denote it. One of the things that for me would fall in there is any activity, any thoughts, what have you, that are not advancing the Black world towards liberation. And that opens it up to a whole lot of people, you know, any actions, any behaviors, any thoughts, any of those things that in many ways retard the development and the advancement of our people, that fight against what Khalid Abdul Muhammad would say, the liberation and salvation of the Black nation. So the definition that I would think of right off the top of my head would cover everyone from elected officials to individuals who are up in Walmart or Target trying to steal, you know, things that are eroding the Black brand, eroding all of the things that our people have stood for this very long. And it would be the opposite of individuals who are Black. That would be probably the most succinct definition is niggerism are the actions of individuals who are not acting Black, who are actually waging their own personal war against Blackness. And that's a discussion that we definitely need to have within our community.
Exactly. I definitely agree with everything you said. And so as we break it down, we're going to start first with the political definition of niggerism. They have the traitor mentality. It refers to Black leaders who squanders their people's resources and seek validation from the West and refuse to build independent power. It is niggerism that has made Pan-Africa's traders at the top squander the past 50 years of independence, and it has kept them chasing after crumbs from the table of white power. This distinguishes between a Black leader who fights for his people and a practitioner of niggerism who manages his people for the benefit of their former masters. When that last one, the application where it talks about a Black leader who fights for his people and is a practitioner of niggerism, one who manages his peoples for the benefit of their former slave master. It made me think of the rich guy, Doc, who was suing Comcast, McDonald's, because he wasn't getting the fair share of what the total Black population is, but yet he says his business is not a Black-owned business.
I want to say Byron Allen.
Yes, that's the nigga. That's him. That's him. That's him. And you know, of course, he got his white wife, and you know, he talks, you know, like, yeah, you know, I'm for Black people, this, da, 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 da. But when they start having conversations about his business, and he said, my business is not a Black business. You know, so you can't quantify, you can't say that I'm a Black business owner because my business is not a Black business owner. But yet at the same time, he uses the population numbers of Black people and say that he's supposed to get a share of the money based on our population numbers. And that's like, how are you going to have saying that you're not a Black business, but yet you want to use our numbers to make your pockets rich?
Because he at his core is a capitalist. And, you know, I look at capitalists and I understand, you know, what their ultimate goal is. Their ultimate goal is the accumulation of resources, monetary resources, political resources, and what have you. And their mantra, if they were a sports team that had a slogan, it would quite simply be what the Oakland Raiders had, which is quite simply, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. And so there is no morality when you begin to talk about American business. So they'll try anything to advance that ultimate goal, which is accumulation of wealth and accessing more and more wealth. It's no different than what we saw with white men during the 1970s, when we have this creation of what should have been called Black reparations, but they termed it affirmative action. Well, because they don't put the word Black in there as far as Black reparations or what have you, you begin to have this loose speak about minority. And once you begin to talk about, you know, minority, people should have known it was over then. Because what ultimately is going to end up happening, and we're seeing it to this very moment with this attack upon DEI, that the greatest beneficiaries of DEI were actually white women. Well, that started all the way back into the 70s, when you have men who are, and we'll use probably the most glaring example, one of the most glaring examples is the building of the Jackson Field Hartwell Airport in Atlanta. What white men are going to do, because affirmative action is saying, well, you have to subcontract so much of your work if you want to have this contract, if you want to work on the Atlanta airport, because you're not a minority business. What these men are going to quite simply do is sign their business over to the wives. And are women a minority population according to the definition that was put forward? So now the same business that was yesterday, that on a Friday could not access minority dollars, is going to be able to access those by Tuesday at noon. So that's really what he's doing. he's arguing, and he's learned, and I would argue that he's learned very well from them that if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So if I have to talk about, under certain circumstances, my company being a black company,
Mhm.
and these are the numbers, and I should be allowed to access because it is a black company. Yet at the exact same time, at other moments where it serves me to not be chained, pun intended, to Black America, I'll use that as well. And what he's really saying, and you'll find, I think that any successful Black business within a capitalist situation is going to have to do this. They're going to quite simply say that I'm here, and they should be, I'm here to service everyone, because the ultimate goal is what? The accumulation of wealth. The goal is not the liberation of Black folk. And when we talk about this idea of Black business, let's be very clear. What the masses of Black folk are trying to do is provide a few select Black business people a monopoly upon their dollars. Well, there needs to be an extension of that discussion, which is quite simply, what do we get for allowing you to monopolize our dollars? Other communities, other groups seem to recycle some of that money back into their community by giving loans and startup capital to other aspiring business owners. Black business owners there has to be a discussion. We talk about, what is it, medical ethics. There needs to be business ethics, that if we're supporting you, you can't take that money is not yours.
Right.
That money has to be deposited in a certain bank, has to be cycled, has to be accessible to the community. But those are conversations that we rarely have. When some Black business people get money, that's their money. They didn't have to compete for that money, but it's still their money. And I yield, brother.
Interesting. So, Doc, when we're dealing with the term niggerism, I know some people will say, "Oh, y'all using a racial slur," but we're not using it as a racial slur. We're using it politically, psychologically. Some would even say it is a disease. How would you classify it? Would you say
I would call it a disease, and the reason I would refer to it as a disease, as a very prominent disease, is because a man is as a man thinketh, so is he. And so when you're seeing people who are literally acting in ways that are not to the benefit of the collective, that's sort of a slow slit across one's own throat. Okay. Because eventually, once that body of people falls off, you're going to fall off as well. Only a person who is either insane or does not understand the larger game of life, that there's strength in numbers, would behave in such a way. Even when you're talking about animals in the wild, your best chance of surviving if you are in a school of fish is to remain within that ball, that school of fish. If you decide that you're going to break off because you can make it to the shore, if you're a penguin or something, and I think I can make the shark's going to get you. And that's in many ways what ends up happening within our community. So you're really talking about a person whose illness is often couched and talked about as misanalysis. But it's not a misanalysis all the time. It's not a mistake, a misstep all the time. Sometimes it is a willful, conscious attempt to separate themselves from the group to save themselves. So that's a part of it, a major part.
I want to welcome Emerald Jewel to the program.
Welcome.
And Earth Angel 1105 Remix. Peace and blessings. We welcome y'all both to the program. I want to take up what Nama X said. He says, I've been saying it for years. A lot of our entrepreneurs are only in it for themselves, unfortunately. We should be doing what the Black Panthers showed us is possible. I don't fault those who work for themselves, but if you're not using your self-employment to improve other Black people's economy, you're doing it wrong. So then is the Black mindset a socialist mindset?
I would argue it is, without a doubt. I would argue that, and when we talk about that, and let's not use the S word, because the
Okay.
S word seems to trigger some people, because then they go and they begin looking at European history and things like that.
Mhm.
Well, look at the Black experience. The Black experience has been one that we're only here because of our ability to interlace our lives with each other. That's the only way we've been able to make it over. I can remember being at home one day, and our neighbors directly across the street, the Caldwells, Miss Caldwell comes down her driveway, and I'm watching her come down the driveway, because my parents were close to being slave drivers, and I had to do dishes and things like that. It had better be done between me and my sister. And my sister was always in the wind. She
Mm.
always was able to escape. So I'm doing these dishes, trying to make sure we don't get in some type of trouble. However, I see Miss Caldwell come down, and she doesn't stop at the bottom of her steep driveway. She keeps walking. She's in our driveway, and she comes up to the door, and she says to me, "Listen, I got a question for you." I said, "Okay, what's going on?" She said, "Do you know what vanilla extract is?" Yes, I do. Okay, because I'm something like a chef. Okay, that you might not know that about me, but audience, I'm a bad boy in the kitchen. Okay, so I'm something like a chef.
Yeah.
So she said, "Do you know where your mother keeps it?" I said, "Yeah, I know where she keeps it." So I go and get it, give it to her. She takes it, and she said she had expressed that she was in the throes of making a cake.
Hmm.
Give it to her. Maybe an hour later, I see Miss Caldwell come walking back, and I know she's bringing the vanilla extract back with her, but at the same time, she's carrying a plate. So she gave us several slices of her cake. There has always been a sort of a mutual reliance that Black folk have had to have upon each other, some semblance of a trust.
Hmm.
Okay, if your parent didn't make it home from work on time, and you were there locked out of the house, where did you go? You went to a neighbor's house. If you know that you ain't gonna make that rent, and
Hmm.
you ain't gonna make it, there's no possible way you gonna make it. You done went and talked to white Jesus, and he wasn't on the main line when you went up in there crying and hollering. Okay, throw a rent party. And many of the people who are going to that rent party are going solely out of a idea of intercommunalism. That, look, everybody's going to have those days when it rains on them. So we're going to support you because we got a little extra right here that we're able to bless you with. The same thing with people who make plates. You could have went to the restaurant if you wanted to eat out, but you chose to specifically go to Mount Zion to get a spaghetti plate because they trying to finish building on. They need the windows on the wing that they
Hmm.
trying to build. So is that socialism? Is that being neighborly? What is it? And so I think that when you begin to take these white constructs of capitalism, socialism, communism, and you apply them to Black folk and the Black experience, oftentimes they fit like a cheap suit. They never, you can't really use them on us. You can talk about it and you can try, but you really aren't able to do that. We are a society of mutual benefits. When you look at the National Council of Negro Women, Dorothy Height, sister that always wore the hat.
Right, right.
You look at the National Council of Negro Women, their mantra was, and it's one of the most beautiful ones, if you got somebody who want to climb up, it is lifting as we climb.
Mm.
Far too often, we're seeing some people who ain't trying to lift as you climb. So that dead weight always poses a danger of being so significant for so long that you lose your grip upon the ledge that you're climbing on.
Mm.
So in every way, when you're talking about this idea of socialism, this idea of, come on, we've always had to help each other out, because we didn't just now start getting paid less than white folk.
Right, right.
That ain't new.
Mm-hmm.
And despite what we're hearing from all these sisters, these boss chicks, Black women are the only demographic that Black women make more money than right now are Mexican women.
Oh, wow.
That's the only group that's underneath them. Okay, Mexican men have caught them, and Mexican men are quickly closing the ground upon Black men. So the idea that you can make it on, and let's be clear on the type of money we talking about, what, 43,000 a year,
Right.
and you want to go to a $80 brunch every weekend. That's a significant portion of your meager earnings.
Exactly.
And if this recent DEI and the Doge thing that has decimated the federal workforce, look at who lost their jobs. It was Black women.
Mm-hmm.
And one could argue, and I'm not a conspiracy buff, but one could very well argue that they did that on purpose, that they attacked Black women on purpose, because Black women have been decimated in regards to that. And one can only hope that we still have a spirit of unity between us, because if we don't, Black America is going to suffer mightily for quite a while, because this without steady employment and without a spirit of interdependence and relying upon each other and being willing to help each other, you shall surely die.
Wow. To touch back on the example that you gave with the rent party, so some would think, and you tell us, is this right? But some would think and say, well, under that situation, with the rich rent parties, nobody was rich. So in the system that you want to use, none of us going to be rich. We all going to be poor.
Well, but the thing is, and let's be very clear about who we're talking about. We're talking about Black folk.
Right.
Okay. Let's be clear. And let's remove the Negroes who hit the genetic lottery and are in a league. Let's remove them. Okay. Though the NBA, NFL, MLB, take them completely out. Take those that can sing well, those who got some break. And I don't want to deal with Corey Holcomb talking about how you get a break in Hollywood either. Okay. However, take that population out. If you do, we're broke, and we've been broke. Okay. We've been at various different levels of poverty. Let's be very, very clear about that. Okay. We've always had to have two incomes coming in that house if we wanted any semblance of stability. Okay. It's different between, and you, I venture to guess that this. I venture to guess that everyone that will listen to this knows this. We know why some people make a big pot of spaghetti, because you're gonna eat off of that rascal for 4, 5, 6 days. Okay, if you better get some of that white bread, put some bread on it, and some butter and some garlic on it, and act like you are in many ways over there at the Italian restaurant.
Mhm.
And then another day, guess what? What we gonna do is we gonna go get some day old French bread, and we gonna act like we got breadsticks. You learn how to make this work. Now,
Mhm.
in doing that, it's different from you getting your job from your paycheck from the plant, and you know that y'all, after y'all pay everything, if you even able to pay everything, you got maybe $300 left for the month.
Mhm.
Well, we can take 50 of that $300, combine that with 10 other people who gonna get 50 at a rent party, and
Mhm.
make sure your cousin don't end up homeless. Make sure her kids don't end up without. So you, and it's to your best interest and your benefit for you to participate in this, because every dog has its day, and
Mhm.
you're only one arrival at work from somebody saying something to you, and that's the day where you like, okay, all right, yep, I'm going, I'm gonna lay my religion down to the side today. There isn't a black person that you know who has worked in mainstream society, okay, around, and that means around white folk, and even sometimes around black folk, who ain't got a story
Mhm.
about when they lost their job.
Mhm.
Okay,
True. That's true.
so you better put some of that goodwill in the bank. Put that,
Mhm.
put it to the side. Okay, because you don't want to be that selfish bastard that didn't help nobody.
Right.
Okay? And then when your time come, you sitting over here all mush mouth. Okay, and everybody know you done lost your job over there. Yeah, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna fucker didn't come over here and get no plate, did he? He could have came and got a plate. We were selling catfish plates for 450, and he said that he didn't want
Mm, mm, mm. Mm, mm, mm.
there. And there you go. And therein is how we made it over. And so
Mm,
the idea of, and I don't have a problem with the idea of black business people having some semblance of individuality.
mhm.
Okay. However, one of my professors at Ohio State, Dr. Stephanie J. Shaw, who would always say, I ain't seen you in a bunch of Sundays. Okay. That
Mhm.
was her way of greeting you. Dr. Shaw would tell us these stories, okay, about how her community, I believe she's from North Carolina, how her community relied upon each other. That's how they got over. And I'm sure that every black person who's raised up within a working class or poor black community has stories about what was going on behind closed doors, away from children's eyes, that
Mhm.
allowed a family to remain in a home, allowed a family to feed their children,
Mhm.
allowed their children to be able to wake up in the morning and have running water in the house, you know? And of course, one of those ways was you had a brother who worked for the utility company, who was on call to come and turn your water on when you needed it turned on, and then turn it back off so you wouldn't get fined when they came to see if it was back on.
Mhm.
That is the reliance upon each other, and it isn't a reliance that ever allowed us to thrive, but it damn sure allowed us to exist and not die.
Mhm.
And that's one of the beauties of black folk. We are, when we are at our best and in our right mind and not overly stressed, we've never met a stranger.
Mm. Wow. Deep, deep. There's a book called The West and the Rest of Us, and I don't know how to pronounce the brother's name, so I'm not even going to try. But in there, he talks about the condition where a black leader is physically black, but mentally a servant to white power.
Yes.
Their job only is to manage the plantation, not to free the slave. When we apply that, is that for every black person that's a manager of a business, that is in politics, Is that all that you can be, a manager and not a freer?
I don't believe so, because I've seen some bad brothers who were much more than managers. Marion Barry.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's be clear. Marion Barry. Let's look at Adam Clayton Powell Jr. He was much more than a manager. Now you do have some managers, but no, that's not all that you can be. John Conyers, brother that out of Detroit, that continually talked about the idea of reparations in the modern period. Another brother like that. We can look at Barbara Jordan. We can look at Mickey Leland. You can't say that they were just managers and what have you, or that that's all that you can be. However, let's be very, very clear upon what we're talking about. Who are you? The question that you have to deal with when you're looking at this matter of political power and leadership, the question you got to deal with is, who are you beholden to?
Mm.
And that's where it kind of begins and ends. Who installed you? Did the people install you? And if the people installed you, what are the expectations of you? If a foreign power installed you, what are the expectations of you? Because the moment that you go against those expectations, your leadership position is now tenuous. What you're describing, what he's describing, is actually what we saw in Africa. That when you have African leaders who are installed by European powers to run the colony for the mother country, go against what they say. Because their ultimate goal is not predicated upon the idea of liberating Africans. It's predicated upon the idea of extending their rule and extracting more resources from the motherland. Same thing within Black communities. You can't go down there being Akbar Israel Bey at the white company. Go on down there with a kufi on, talking that sovereign citizen talk, and see what happens there, because you're beholden to someone else. It's the reason why, we Black athletes and also Black Hollywood stars, notable Black folk, constantly get maligned and attacked for this, for not being more prominent and more vocal in regards to Black issues. Okay, we want them to be out there on the front line with us. Well, they're not beholden to us. And because we didn't put them where they are, we can't keep them there. So what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do if you're Denzel, you're Samuel L. Jackson, you're Michael B. Jordan? And each one of those brothers, if you look at their stories, every Black person has that has come up with what James Cleveland called the rough side of the mountain. All of them have some story of what they've had to overcome and things like that.
Right.
Okay. You're dealing with some people who can ensure that you return back there. So they're not beholden to you. So if you want your political leaders to represent you, get out and vote for them. Get out and be such a force where you can in many ways say, look here, bro, you know why we put you here, right? Okay. Now we ain't gonna be unreasonable, but we do need you to represent us and represent our interests. Okay, don't get up there acting brand new. There's a brother right now. What is his name? He's down here in Texas. Kind of put you in the mind of Herschel Walker. Man, look here. I done seen about 40 political ads about this brother and about how he has missed, and I can give you the number. He's missed 280 votes. And now, if he can't be there voting to support Trump, We need to get rid of him. Paid for by the Texas Conservative Coalition. They didn't came for the brother. They put him in there, and he ain't do what he was sent there to do. Was, hey, you, whatever Trump say vote for, that's what you need to be voting for, bro. Okay, so now they are sitting around here, and I was laughing with my wife, and I said, yeah, I said they sitting around right now talking, oh yeah, now we going coon hunting, and ain't nothing private about it, ain't no whispers about it. They want him up out of there, and and we have to be that way when we elect our officials. Now, if you didn't elect them, you're just driving yourself mad. Going down there talking to Wesley Hunt, that's his name. Yeah, they after Wesley. You just going down there making yourself mad, because you didn't put them there. And the same thing with business. If you're not supporting as a community these business people, you have no leverage over them to make them do anything. Now, if you put them there, you can very well go ahead and say, look, we're going to stop supporting your business. And they will close down. If you truly are 70, 80, 90% of their clientele, they'll close down within a week. They won't even be able to make payroll.
Doc, I want to look at what you just talked about, and I want to apply that directly to Africa. When we look at Patrice Lumumba's situation, right? He rose to power, and then his own people killed him at the behest of France and whatever else government there. Yeah. But when you look at that, compare that to Hugo Chavez, where Bush and them came and swooped his ass out. His people rose up and they had to put his ass back. Why don't the African have that same understanding of their own self-interest that the Venezuelans do?
There are these moments in your life where you kind of, you kind of want to say, in certain moments, you want to say, ask me. Okay, because I got something to say about it. But then there are other moments where you're just kind of like, don't ask me that shit. Because my answer is going to be the same. Okay, but it ain't gonna be appreciated within it. I believe that Africans are slow-minded. Yeah, I said it. I believe that they're still under the haze and the cloudiness of European education. It's still on them. Okay, you talk about Patrice Lumumba, freedom fighter. They rise up to depose Lumumba. I was in Ghana at the botanical garden thing that they have for Kwame Nkrumah. Okay. Now I studied in Nkrumah. Okay. He studied at Lincoln University and HBCU here. Okay. Goes back, and he's the first Black president of independent Ghana. The first, he freed y'all. And if you look behind, at that time, if you looked behind the building where they had his museum and all of his collectibles, you saw this huge metal statue. Okay. Like some steel workers had put it together. It ain't got no head on it, and it's missing an arm. Okay. So the guy, and once again, it's kind of in the back. You gotta look to see it. Okay. The guy who was doing the tour, the equivalent of their park ranger or whatever, I'm talking to him about the students and where they're from. He said, oh, they're Americans and blah, blah, blah. And I stopped him. I said, tell them the truth. And he said, are you sure? I said, I am absolutely positively sure, brother. Tell them the truth of what happened. Okay. The truth of what happened in Ghana, the Central Intelligence Agency went in there and through a radio campaign, a written campaign, an education or miseducation campaign, convinced them Negroes that Kwame Nkrumah was doing them harm.
Oh, wow.
They rose up, deposed Nkrumah. Okay, Nkrumah had to go with to Guinea with Sekou Touré, who was the other independent black president of a black country. That's why Kwame Nkrumah, Stokely Carmichael, changed his name to Kwame Touré in honor of Kwame Nkrumah and Sekou Touré. Okay, them Negroes were convinced that Nkrumah had did them wrong. And who told them that? The CIA. And they believed it. And they ran Nkrumah up out of there. And then eventually had to bring him back because the country fell to shit.
Wow. So
that's what you're dealing with. And you're dealing with, I met a sister, she was working at Office Depot. I went and bought some paper. And I caught her accent. I said, "So, where are you from?" And she says, "Oh, I'm British. I'm from Britain." Okay. You from Britain? Okay. Well, where was your people at before Britain? Oh, Nigeria. I said, yeah. Your black ass ain't British. Fuck Nigeria. Let's be very clear about this. And once again, the idea of a disease starting up in the brain, how they're conceiving themselves and they're looking at themselves. So many of these people, they believe they're Europeans. If you were to go to, if you and your wife were pregnant and y'all unwisely decided that y'all was gonna go to China to visit for some reason, or Japan, does that make your baby Japanese or Chinese? They could be a citizen of that land, but that ain't who their racial identity is. And that's a struggle to get our people to really accept and understand that they are, it takes me back to, I hope the brother wasn't telling the truth. Suge Knight. Suge Knight tells this story. He said that when Dre was thinking about leaving, Death Row, he said, "I'm willing to do anything to keep Dre there." He said, Dre is the engine that keeps it. He's doing the music. He's the producer.
Right.
He said, so I asked Dre, I said, "Dre, what can I give you? What do you want?" And he said that Dre lifted his head up and he said, "I want to be white."
What?
Now, I don't know if Suge is telling the truth or what. Okay. But there's a bunch of our people that if you talk to them, they will tell you that. Yeah, I want to, you really want to know what I want to be? I want to be distant and away from black people. You'll never hear them talk about black people being our people. And that takes us back to that larger debate of niggerism and what does it mean to be black. And so many of these people have divorced blackness from dignity, respect, honor, commitment, and excellence that it doesn't make sense. You have people who will tell you, "Well, we just keeping it real. We black. We keep it ghetto. I like ghetto." Take your crazy ass off somewhere.
Damn. Didn't he marry the white woman?
Who?
The dude you were just talking about, Dre.
I don't think she's white.
Oh, she not white?
No, I don't think. I think she's like that Amber Rose type.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that she's white. No,
okay.
no.
Okay.
If you look at that sister closely, no, I don't think that she's white.
Tranquil, peace and blessings, Tranquil. Welcome to the program. He said trans Caucasoid.
That's someone out of your camp right there. Ridiculous ass shit is that? Just making up shit. Trans Caucasoid.
Nama says that people don't really understand, what Egypt was. And this is a true story. I have a friend at work, Muslim, and I said, Egypt is in Africa, so you're African. Doc, they were offended.
Hell yeah.
They were
What you
offended.
talking about?
And look here, I'm like, it is in Africa. I'm like, Palestine is in Africa. Saudi Arabia is in Africa. And I'm just giving it to them. And she is like, no, I'm not. No, stop saying that. And got upset with our other friend for saying it.
You want to know who really ain't African? Hey, the Ethiopian is not African. Okay. And other Africans, you talk to other Africans, ask them about Ethiopians. Okay. Those are the snooty, bougie Africans. Okay. The Ethiopian, no. The Ethiopian, the first statement they're gonna say to you, we were never colonized. We were independent the entire time. Okay. And you gotta remember that the Ethiopians are the ones that had Lucy, the bones of the oldest living humanoid. And they had an exhibit that went around the world and what have you. The exhibit went throughout Europe and what have you. And I know it was the Russians. Okay, the Russians had Lucy up in their highfalutin museum, and people going to see Lucy. Well, it came time for Lucy's remains to be returned back to Ethiopia. Okay. Listen, they sent a box with some bones in it. Okay. And one of the curators said, this ain't it. This is not Lucy. Okay. They sent them back a damn German Shepherd. They sent them a German Shepherd back. Okay. All right. I'm telling you, hey. And they went through hell to get Lucy's bones back. Yeah, the old fried bones. Yeah. But they sent them people a damn German Shepherd, thinking that they would not know the difference.
Wow.
True story.
That is crazy.
But yeah, they don't. I mean, when you think about how we talk about Egypt, when you think about and let's be very clear about Egypt. Okay. Black folk, and I'm talking about American descendants of slavery. They love Egypt. Okay?
Yeah, they do.
They love Egypt. Okay. And a part of the reason why they love Egypt is because white folk always talking about Greece and Rome. So if y'all talking about Greece and Rome, fuck y'all, we got Egypt. Okay. And over time, you'll find our people acting like they Egyptian. They're like, look here, wasn't no slave ships leaving out of Egypt.
Right.
Okay, we're talking about West Africa. Okay, but there's a psychological need for many of us who the rebellious slaves to really find something that we can counter their we the shit argument with. And Egypt is historically that. I've seen brothers decked out looking like a pharaoh before. Look at this brother right here. This brother got look like gold statues that he walking with and all that. They're looking good, man. The brother sharp and all that going on. You swear that brother was Egyptian. Wow. Ramsey Bay Johnson. But that's who that's one of our reactions to it, that we have to fight back against them in some way. And the way that if we were being logical about it, that we could fight back. You talk about Ghana, Mali, talk about Songhai, talk about Timbuktu.
Right. Yeah. That, and matter of fact, that was going to be my next question. Why aren't those even brought up into the picture?
Well, I mean, who I know about them.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I was exposed to them. So the question has to kind of go forward, and you say, well, where did you learn about it?
Mm-hmm.
And so much of, and this is one of I got like maybe a top 10 of pet peeves in
Mm-hmm.
regards to being a black educator and working with black students. Our people are so passive in their learning. We need to, and if there's one gift that I could gift my students, or really any black person,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of age, it's intellectual curiosity, to know what's behind that door. Many people will call it going down a rabbit hole as far as the internet. Where you go here and then you go here and you look at this and you look at this. Well, do that with history. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's not hidden. I mean, come
Right.
on, people got to, you got this doggone phone thing on your hip the
Right.
entire time, man, but you sitting over here TikToking, you know what I'm saying? Instagram. You
Mm.
know what I'm saying? You taking all of that there. So nobody's keeping you from it. And until you really honestly look at telling the truth, you're gonna stay in the same place you are. Own your shit.
Mhm.
I can tell you, for me, my one guilty indulgence is 11 Warriors. It's an Ohio State football. I go to 11 Warriors, the recruiting message board, and I also
Mhm.
go to Yahoo. And I don't even, I might look at the news story, but really I'm going there to look at the message boards to hear what people are actually saying, because the anonymity of a message board allows people to tell you exactly what it
Mhm.
is that they're thinking. So why? Number one, they don't know. Let's start there. Your teachers and your educators, they ain't took no class on Egyptology. And even
Mhm.
if they did take a class on Egyptology, they wouldn't be allowed to teach that, because the ultimate goal of being an educator is not educating at the present moment. The ultimate goal, and I'm talking about K through, really, I'm talking about all of it. The ultimate goal is maintaining your job and your employment. And how do you do it? You teach to what's on that test.
Mm.
And Pharaoh Ramsey is not on that test. Okay. The idea of Israel being in Africa is not
Mhm.
on that test. Okay. It's just not.
Mm.
That's your answer to why.
Wow.
And to empower our people, I would say the reason why our kids don't know about it is because y'all ain't taught them.
Mm.
I went through school in the 1970s and 80s. You think they was teaching us this? No. You had to have a special engagement, damn near a conference, to hear a topic that was dealing with black folk.
Wow. Mm. So when we look at niggerism, how does that manifest in labor? If you have black unions or leaders, do you see that they will sell out the rank and file workers to
Well,
get a seat at the capitalist table?
but the question I would have is, what black unions are you talking about?
Well, the only ones that I know of are the Black Police Officers Union. I don't
Okay.
know of any other black
I
unions.
mean, I have a hard time viewing a black police officers association as a union, because they are embedded and submerged within a larger white union. Okay.
Mm.
They're kind of like an auxiliary within kind of an interest group within an existing union. They're not a Philip Randolph's Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters. They're just simply not. Okay. That are dealing with the black porters and what's going on the trains. But I think that your question is, black union leaders, are they selling their people out to get a seat at the table? I don't. As a labor historian, I can't say that they're selling their people out. I think that they're doing whatever they can do to get a conversation going. One of the things that we rarely talk about when you're talking about the longest running war within America. That's what I call it when I lecture on it. It's a war between workers and owners. Make no mistake about it.
Mm.
Those two sides are never going to agree. And so what we have is the need for a dance, kind of a social dance, a business dance, kind of like a tango.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if we know nothing else, the idea of like ballroom dancing
Mm-hmm.
is not something that everyone is gifted with. And if you're ever to the audience, if you're ever having a bad day and you need something to laugh at, go to Dancing with the Stars and look up Master P. Okay. Because Master P made a mess out of Dancing with the Stars. And I voted for Master P every single week to remain
Wow.
on Dancing with the Stars. He made it for a long time because there were those of us who were voting because we wanted to see P mess it up again. You know, it got to the point where one of the judges looked in the camera and said, "Voters, now you're just being cruel." It was clear that P wanted to be off of the show. He wasn't showing up for rehearsal. He was just
Oh,
stomping
wow.
around. He didn't have no dancing shoes on. He had some big old boots on that he stomped around. I was like, he gonna kill that lady if he step on her foot. However,
Mm, mm, mm.
two individuals who are doing a dance, both of them have to know their part. You got to know your part. And there's certain non-starters for laborers and certain non-starters for owners. There's certain non-starters for teachers and there's certain non-starters for school systems. One of the problems that Detroit is experiencing, Houston is experiencing right now, is that the contract and the negotiation for benefits for workers, for municipal workers,
Mhm.
was rich and they ain't died. So you're still paying that and it's bankrupting cities. So when you're talking about black union bosses, I don't look at the demands of black workers as being, and this is, once again, I was raised up in the academy. I was talking about this earlier with my wife. I was raised up in the academy by a communist, Dr. Warren
Mhm.
Banton. So I'm not a communist, but I'm damn sure a democratic socialist. Okay. There is nothing peculiar about the demands of black workers versus white workers. Nothing peculiar, nothing different about that at all. The problem comes in, though, when white union bosses, white workers don't view black workers as being inextricably linked to their fortune. And they're
Mhm.
willing to cut our throats at any moment to sort of get 2 or 3 paces ahead, what they think will be 2 or 3 paces ahead, that ultimately leaves them about 10 paces behind because they cut ties with black workers who know how to do the job. And then when the white workers go on strike, the black workers come in and do the job as scabs, as they should.
Mm.
Because if the union is not welcoming them and inviting them and working in their best interest, they're not parts of the union and shouldn't honor the union at all.
So
So
you're okay with scabs? This is shocking because I thought you
I'm
was a union man.
I'm okay with scabs when unions are locking out workers on the basis of race.
Okay.
Okay. I believe in the mantra of the Knights of Labor. The Knights of Labor were the first major American union,
Mhm.
and their mantra was quite simply this: that all workers, regardless of race, class, age, gender, um, should be organized. All. Okay. And it's a very progressive thought. And what they're actually saying is that if you don't unionize and organize all workers, when you go on strike, there is a reserve workforce that is waiting to take your jobs. So under those circumstances where unions have colluded within themselves to be racist,
Mhm.
to be bigoted, yeah, I believe in scab work, because that's a case of the chickens coming home to roost. Okay,
Mm.
your mistreatment of black workers has caused them to have to do business in ways that they definitely wouldn't want to, because they would get more benefit if they were allowed to join the union. But when you have a system of apprenticeship, and you have historically kept black folk from being apprenticed, especially in the building trades, the construction trades, you can't fault them for being scabs. Not at
Mm.
all. They didn't just say, "Well, I ain't joining no union." No, you
Mhm.
prevented them from joining a union. Okay. And now, do we have some black union bosses who will sell out the workers that they're supposed to be representing? Certainly,
Mm.
certainly. If they think that it would prove to them, if they don't have morality and they think that it would improve their status immeasurably, yeah, they'll do it. It's
Mm.
just what it is. It's business.
Wow. Now you said something that was very interesting. One of the things that you said that was very interesting, you talked about the workers and the owners will never agree.
No.
Um, and I want you to touch on that. But also you said this, which really is, I think is the most shocking, is that the pensions is making cities go bankrupt
Mm,
because the pension people, the retirees, are not dying.
yeah,
So you're basically saying that they had a hell of a good deal that
yeah.
was what, too sweet, that the city should have never agreed to that.
I will not say it was too sweet, because it wasn't too sweet when they did it. There's a reason that they agreed to do it.
Uh-huh.
However, you did not foresee the tax base for cities shrinking the way that it has. American cities, the wealthy have moved out into the suburban areas. They're not within the city limits and what have you. So you have a smaller tax base there. And when you have additional people coming on the payroll
Mhm.
every year, it's going to be a strain upon that. Where's that money going to come from? For far too long, we've operated as if more money could just be printed up, as if money wasn't real. Well, there comes a moment where that's not going to be possible. It's not going to be tenable. Look at New York City. What's his name? Mamdani.
Mandani. Hmm.
He's coming in, and he's definitely he's a democratic socialist.
Right.
Okay, raising the tax base upon the wealthy within a capitalist nation, okay, is offensive
Mm.
to them. It is rude. Okay, and they're more than likely to disrupt their entire lives and living situation by leaving New York State. So
Mhm.
now you're talking about increasing the expenditures of the city, and the tax base leaves. It's what happens to you go and you look at every 1970s American city. Look at GI. Okay, one of my favorite cities to talk about, Gary, Indiana. People sleep on Gary. Gary is one of the roughest cities that you could have been in the 1970s and 80s. Okay, and really probably
Wow.
all the way through the 2000s. Many people, like you know who's from Gary, Indiana, right?
Michael Jackson.
See, Michael Jackson's from Gary, Indiana, and people discount Gary because of Michael Jackson. You need to not be looking at Michael Jackson when you evaluate Gary. Look at Joe Jackson. That's
Mm.
Gary, Indiana. You got Gary, Indiana. You got him what's his name? Richard Hatcher, elected Mayor of Gary. You have Carl Stokes elected in Cleveland. You have Maynard Jackson in Atlanta. Those were the 3 black mayors who were elected during that sweep of black political power. Every one of those cities was in a worse financial state by the time that black man left that office than when he arrived. Every single one of them.
Oh my God.
And it isn't because the black men were inept. Okay. Look at Atlanta. What happened in Atlanta? White folk don't want to concede Atlanta to black folk, even though black folk are have just become the numerical majority in Atlanta by the early 1970s. Maynard Jackson's opponent, his political slogan was Atlanta is too young to die.
Oh,
wow.
wow.
What is he saying? When that's your slogan, that Atlanta is too young to die. What are you saying?
Don't vote for that nigga. It's going to be all over.
Can I pause for 1 second?
Yes.
My thought. I'm going to do my best.
Okay.
You know, Dallas Cowboys just beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, let me pick up my thought again. So what happens in Atlanta is quite simply that white folk, white folk who run the business, the power brokers, when Maynard Jackson wins, they leave outside of the city limits of Atlanta. They leave Atlanta proper. Okay. But the message has been sent to Black America. And this is the joke that you still have in Atlanta to this day, that nobody in Atlanta is from Atlanta. Okay. When Maynard Jackson won, they came up with a situation where it was almost like a bat, like the bat signal, a red, black, and green bat signal that went into every impoverished Black neighborhood that told Black folk to come to Atlanta. Black folk flooded Atlanta. But these were people who, I use this term strategically, they were labor intensive. If you know what that system intensive. Okay, they came there, they had no degree, they had no job prospects. All they had was a beating heart and a growling stomach, which Atlanta's public, their social services were going to have to deal with. So here you have a steep drop in city funds because white folk left and took their businesses with them, and you got droves of Black folk coming who are going to get on public assistance. What mayor could balance that? And it's why Maynard Jackson was so adamant about subcontracting the work. He said, no. This airport is going to be built by people from Atlanta. So if you move your company out of Atlanta proper, you're going to have to hire, subcontract Black folk, because he wanted to tax those dollars, and he wanted those dollars to be able to circulate within the city. So when you have a situation where come on, think about how Black folk talk about it. Yeah, he got one of them good government jobs. Right. Yeah. What are they saying? They talking about pay and they talking about benefits. Okay, so these municipal employees, these federal employees with this good pay. I mean, come on. The DC, Maryland, Virginia area, the Black middle class and what they would like to say upper middle class, these Negroes that are making six figures, and it ain't necessarily a one at the front of that list of what they're making, buying these big old houses and these luxury cars and what have you. Okay, the government is their employer. So what happens when that goes away? We're seeing what happens when that goes away. That they've been living at least at the, if not beyond their means, they've been close. They've been tiptoeing that line. So after missing one paycheck, where they at? They at the food line. in a damn Maserati or a Benz, something like that. Okay, looking like a damn fool, and
Mm,
and got nerve enough to be working for the government in economics, and
mhm,
didn't balance and didn't even balance yours.
mm, mm, mm.
So those are things that have to in many ways be looked at, in
Mm.
regards to black inefficiency. You
Right.
and we're shout out to DeMarcus Hamilton, one of my former students, Bone. DeMarcus, very clear. He says, you know what, niggas sure know how to waste some time, don't they? And you look at it, is the truth.
Mhm. Mm. I want us to look at the shift from Booker T. Washington, do for self economics, and what his way was, to the integrationist mindset, to now, would you call it begging for a job?
Hmm. So what do you want? Because I'm a Washingtonian.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
it's just
So,
what it
so
is.
that shift was one of the nails in our coffin. But
Well,
now we go from being do for self to Masa, can I get a job? And you forget
but
all about doing for self.
no, I don't think that you ever forgot about building for self.
Hmm.
It's not as if on a certain day black folks stopped being able to, or stop aspiring to create a job for themselves. It didn't happen that way,
Hmm.
But when you're talking about Booker T. Washington's plan, the Tuskegee plan, and let's be very clear on where the Tuskegee plan actually came from. It
Hmm.
comes from the Hampton model. Okay, the Hampton model that was advocated and taught to Booker T. Washington by the man that he says was the most significant influence upon his life, his public life. General, he's a Union general. His name is General Samuel Chapman Armstrong, a white guy.
Hmm.
And what Armstrong teaches Washington is that whatever black folk were doing in slavery, they need to do in freedom. And that sums up Booker T. Washington's entire philosophy,
Hmm.
that you're an expert in this skill or in this trade. Now we need to bolster that with a little knowledge about economics and running a business. And then we'll be cooking with with hot grease, hot fish grease. However, the idea of doing for self, of building a black business, has its limits. And Booker T. Washington tried to discuss these limits when he's talking about we need to make friends with our southern neighbor. Booker T. Washington is very aware that just selling the black folk is a dead end. It's going to be very, very limited, very tenuous, because you're not going to get all black folk to even purchase your goods. So what we need to do is we need to be excellent in regards to what it is that we prepare. Okay. If you're running a restaurant, your food has got to be superior to others, and your customer service has got to be on point as well. And people got to feel safe when they come there. Okay.
Mm.
What winds up happening during that push for integration, it's not as if these black businesses just disappeared overnight. They didn't. But our people, and I always ask my students this when we're talking about the sit-in movement, the question that you have to deal with, and the question that is so very difficult for us to answer, is where did you go to eat before you went to Cresses or Woolworths? Where did you go?
Mm.
And the answer to that is they went to the local black mom and pop shop. Somewhere along the line, along the way, we lost this. The understanding the difference between having the ability to go to a Crest or a Woolworths or a white business to do business
Hmm.
versus the need to. And it's that small inability to tell the difference between the want the ability to and the need to, that sunk us. Because if you, and this takes us back to what we were talking about, how we view, and Du Bois talks about viewing the world through a lens. He says it's a peculiar sensation to view oneself through the eyes of another. It ties into how we view white folk. Okay, even it's a psychological problem, that the idea that the white man's ice is colder is some real shit when you're dealing with black folk. Okay, we confused the having the ability, and we deserve to have the ability to go eat wherever it is we want to. You need to have the ability. You're a first-class American citizen, okay, with the need to do it. That's something different. Do you need, why don't Asians come to the black community and go to Chinese restaurants that black folk own? There's no need to. They recognize the connection of patronizing their own and circulating their own money with being able to employ their people. The same thing with these people who sell this weave, these cadaver hairs, these cadaver follicles to black women. Black folk are never going to be able to break into that market, because they'll take less money from their own people to keep that money circulating there. It's not, they're not going to be that individualistic. You know, Dr. Stephanie J. Shaw, I was talking about earlier, I lost my train of thought. She has a term that she uses in her book, What a Woman Ought to Be and Ought to Do. She calls it socially responsible individualism. That's what black business people should have had. However, it's how we imagine white folk. And you would not imagine black folk in the same way that you imagine white folk. And I'll give you a perfect example. You know that them white folk don't like you and don't want you in their business. Okay, you know that. Okay, but you're gonna force them to go in the back to fix your fucking food, and then you're gonna sit there and but we don't process it that way, do we? You know, we process like, yeah, I'm making you do it. Now change that, okay, and think about who's your favorite cousin, your favorite female cousin.
My favorite female cousin, Niecy.
Niecy, okay, I got a Niecy too. Okay, let's say Niecy was in the 9th, 10th grade, and some girls at her school and their family jumped on Niecy. Okay, whoa, Niecy's ass out. Okay. Now, y'all know where they're gonna be at because y'all all go to church together. Is the family showing up at church?
Oh, most definitely.
See, most definitely we showing up at church, right? Okay. And the pastor, he's abreast of everything that has happened. And what he's saying is they went to him, they called pastor and said, please let us address this matter before the service began. And he does. And they get up and they apologize for what happened. And they invite y'all over to their house for Sunday dinner as a expression of, a peace, an olive branch. Y'all going?
Nah.
Y'all ain't going?
Fuck that.
Are y'all? Would y'all trust going over there and eating something they prepared for y'all?
No.
See how we look at it differently because it's white folk. It's one of the reasons why I was watching. I like the show American Greed. They need to make more American Greeds, right?
Yeah, I like that too.
You see the one with Teddy Riley on there?
I ain't see that one.
Oh, Teddy Riley's on there, man, looking bad, man.
What?
Oh, Teddy Riley then let a white boy cause him to sign over all rights to his recording studio.
What?
Yeah. Okay. And He found out that his stuff had been foreclosed on and was being auctioned off through a girlfriend whose one of her relatives was a real estate person who said, yeah, I didn't know Ted was having these kind of problems. He out in California somewhere.
Wow.
Stuff was auctioned off that day. Now, couldn't no black person have done that to him? Because we got too many questions when it come to us. Whoa, bro. Wait a minute. Whoa. You're talking too fast.
Exactly.
And that ties directly into how you conceive them. Okay. Here you are willing. You ain't willing to go over there to the Jenkins family house. They didn't apologize for whooping Niecy's ass. Now, what else you need? Okay. You unforgiving black bastards. So a little ass whooping will keep y'all from going over there and breaking bread with your brother and sister by nature. But you'll go up and pay money at a Crest or Woolworths that have people who have lynched, raped, and burned your people. Fix you a sandwich in the back and stand there and look at you as you eat it.
Ain't no way.
See, it's all in how you conceive it. So in many ways, when you're talking about this move from what seems to be our abandonment of entrepreneurship, that's not what happened. We didn't abandon that. We just lost our captive customer base. And without a captive customer base, as a small business person, you in trouble. Because what happens if nobody comes today?
Wow.
Before long, you gonna, I look there. You want to talk about one of the most heartbreaking stories? You ever seen a black man just break down and cry in public in front of a flaming barbecue grill? Okay, I've seen that. Brother who had a robust business, okay, right in the hood, right on the edge of the hood, perfect location, across from a church. White folk were able to come one block into the hood, get their barbecue, and leave. Okay, not much threat right there. It ain't in the heart of the hood.
You're right.
He doing great business, he got too big. Okay, so he closed that location and go out to the mall. Okay, failed. Then fell behind. This brother's an award-winning barbecuer. Okay, he was at the barbecue thing. Okay, and the IRS showed up, seized the Negro's ribs. And then you want to talk about embarrassing. Broke the brother down to tears. He apparently had been paying his taxes.
Oh.
So they seized the ribs, brother. And you know how our people do at a moment of embarrassment for the other. Oh, damn, that's real fucked up.
Exactly.
Keep your head up, bro. It'll get better.
Yeah.
So it's not one of those. And the end of that story is actually my mother. She worked at Gorman Rupp Pumps. They made all types of water pumps and things. Anything that for a natural disaster, they made the pumps for it. And her co-workers, majority of them white, were always after her to go out to lunch with them, because they would take these lunch breaks, and she would never go. But they kept raving about this place called the Amish Inn, where I'm from. We got a bunch of Amish. And one day my mother said, what the hell, I'm gonna go with them. So she goes to the Amish Inn. She said the food was incredible. She said, just absolutely incredible. She said, it tastes familiar. Okay. You would have to know Catherine Viola Jones to understand what she did next. She got up and acted like she had to use the restroom, and as if she got lost. She finds herself in the kitchen. And the brother who had the barbecue spot in the hood, him and his family were in the Amish Inn in the kitchen cooking. They're now employees.
Wow.
Working for somebody else. So it's not that he lost his entrepreneurial spirit.
Right.
It turns into, with integration occurring, the semblance of integration occurring. And the greatest form of integration was young Black students going to predominantly white institutions where they're going to learn how the big muckety mucks do. And the big muckety mucks in their lessons are not in any way talking about returning to the Black community to circulate your dollar there. They're taught that your biggest investment that you'll ever make is your home that you purchase. So they're focused upon buying suburban homes and not focused at all about going back to the hood, taking some of that IBM money back. They're not. Okay. And that's their new priorities, and their families are celebrating them because they say, oh, they live in a big house out there in Reynoldsburg. That's what's going on. And so as that stream, that flow of money, it was never a raging river, that dries up. Black businesses, Black entrepreneurs have no choice but to, you might have to shut your restaurant down because you can't pay for the physical space, but now you cooking plates. And is there enough, how many people cooking plates, trying to keep their culinary dreams alive. So it's not as if we just abandoned it. You're dealing with a system that has always utilized Black people as the greaser oil for the system to run. And once the viscosity is gone out of that grease and oil, we're just taking out the machine onto the ground and they pour more into it. That's who we are, So it's been rough on the Black businessman. Very rough.
Most definitely. I want to look at the psychology of validation. Why do these leaders crave a pat on the head, especially the elected ones, from the Democratic Party more than respect from their own community? Why is that such a good thing?
Who are they beholden to? They're
beholden to the people that put them there.
No, because they're trying to make moves with and hobnob with the big players of whatever political party, Republican or Democrat. I don't just put that on the Democrats, either one. They're trying to move amongst the big muckety mucks. You're trying to learn what their moves are. How is it that a person can come into Congress worth $750,000, and when they leave, less than 10 years later, they're sitting on 2.7 million. How did you do that? And that's when it becomes the idea of the individual. And the question is not, the priority is not taking care of the masses of people. Because let's be honest, what could a Black elected official do that would make a significant difference within a rundown Black community? What piece of legislation could they get through? What could they do?
Well, I know, like, for example, here in the city council, in your district, if you wanted to change the streets, make the street, like on my block, if, make everybody that you have to have a permit in order to park on the block, the city council person can write that up and get it passed with nobody objecting. Because anything that's within their district that they want to do.
But wait a minute, wait a minute.
Whoa. You got the handle to do it.
So that's what our problem is? That we want better parking?
I mean, that's part of that. I'm just using it as an example. I'm just using
I'm just saying, what could they do that would make such a significant change in the lives of their constituents? What can they do?
For those who have issues with the electric bill or water bill, you can pass a law to say you ain't allowed to cut their bills off no more. It has to keep running. You have to give them a payment plan to keep it running. It's against the law to turn it off.
Okay.
That would improve their life.
Huh?
That would improve the lives.
I mean, Huey P. Newton said this, and I know this to be true. Okay. He said, you must always remember that to move one grain of sand is to change the world. So the fact that they ain't gonna show up, that you ain't gotta look out your window and be like, "Mama, that water man out there, oh, you ain't gotta worry about that. We got that." But you're still as poor as you were before. You're still as confused as you were before, and that's where you can go. I think the brother's name is Eric Adams.
Mm-hmm.
The brother that I want to say he was in Milwaukee. If you want some good, interesting TV, some watch that brother, okay? And how he act down there at that city council. He acts a plumb dang fool, okay? He cussing people out. He doing everything that you can imagine. But the question becomes, how did you really impact your people's lives? And see, what happens, because you're in Philly, right?
Right.
Okay, what's the biggest industry in Philly? It definitely ain't the Eagles, because we just saw what happened.
No, it ain't. The city government is the biggest industry.
Okay, give me a private one. Do they have any private, okay, let's use Atlanta again, because I know Coca-Cola is such a major player in Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
What happens? What's his reaction if the mayor of Atlanta comes in and he receives a voicemail or a email, a text from the head of Coca-Cola, who says, "This just ain't working out for us no more. We're leaving Atlanta"? What does he do?
He tries to get them to stay.
Why?
Because he knows it's a big employer and is feeding people.
And in
So
many ways, the head of the decision maker for Coca-Cola is more important to Atlanta than the mayor is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think that we go awry when we're talking about how Black lives can be improved.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're looking at politicians, and I don't deny that they could have some role. You could stop people from parking on both sides of the street.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking about tangible gains, what can they really do? And that is really, in many ways, when you're talking about the recipe for Black uplift, let's be very, very clear. You're talking about some money. You need some money. And we have to have a generational plan. And that generational plan has got to be something like, we're not going to have for the next 20 years, we're going to cut the amount of humanities majors that we have down to about 5% of what it is right now. We're going to focus our students on business, engineering, economics, STEM. That's where we're going. Okay. I don't give a damn what you like. Okay. This is what we're going to, because that's going to be the path to uplifting the race long term. We're not going to see the benefit of that necessarily in our lifetime, not in a major way. Because what you're doing is you're growing a educated populace that makes a lot of money. And you need to buttress that with the idea of socially responsible individualism. That, yeah, it's cool that you go get that house, you go get that. Nobody's telling you not to do that, but you can't leave the have-nots in the dust. That we have a tie that can't be broken. Okay, we're inextricably tied to each other, and the ignorant ones need to understand that under no circumstances do you disrespect these people, or do you do anything to damage what it means to be Black. And if you do, because we're gonna go ahead and make sure we got the DA. The DA gonna have to be Black. Okay. Because we're gonna have the DA understand that there are gonna be some cases of somebody getting a good old-fashioned ass whooping for what they doing, even appearing inappropriate in dress, that you're not gonna press charges about that.
Exactly.
They acting a fool out in the street, disrespecting an elder. Nah, you get, this is we gonna call it the purge rule. That if you see something like this happening, you can feel free to address it, my brother. And in time, you're probably not gonna even need the police.
Exactly. Exactly. When we're looking at the signs, if we're going to say this is a disease, the signs of the
It's a
infection,
mental disease.
and let's talk about how media selects leaders for us. If they are safe, articulate, and non-threatening to white power, they get funded. If they talk about war or land, they get silenced. Now, it was very interesting to me. We're going to look at this one, Martin Luther King, because at one point he was America's darling. He was the safe Negro. He was just dealing with integration. Then he switched to, hey, war is wrong, stop the war, this, that, and the other. And the same churches last year he was getting into, after he started speaking out against the war, they said, no, you can't come here. The things were shut down to him. So, did he have was he a safe Negro? What happened to him?
King, no. I would argue that, if you study the trajectory of King's public life, and I'll only deal with his public life, King was never a safe Negro. King was a more appealing alternative to Malcolm. And that's the thing that I don't think that people really factor in when they're talking about how King is perceived. You can't talk about King without the looming presence of the Nation of Islam and Malcolm. You just can't, because if you don't want to deal with King, and Malcolm says this, he says that there's somebody else who would probably want to do it a different way. So it's best that you give King what it is that he's asking for. Okay. O.C. Davis, if you ever watch it, it's the best documentary on Malcolm. Make It Plain. O.C. Davis says quite simply, he says, now, if you don't want to deal with our best face, there's another brother outside that you don't want to deal with. And of course, that was Malcolm. So King is not, we have in death, and I'm guilty of this as well. If a rapper passes away or an R&B singer, I go listen to their stuff.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying? Right. I view them differently in death. I think the world views them. Someone said that the best thing that a writer or a musician can ever do is for album sales or book sales is die, because then people are going to look at you. And in many ways, we reinvent them. Okay. In that moment, look at Pac. People didn't love Pac, and Pac he said it on albums, they say that they wish me well, but I know in my heart they wish me hell. Okay. King is in many ways the same way. King wasn't beloved by anyone. Okay. The majority of Black folk had a significant problem with this big-headed Negro coming to their town and stirring up trouble. But because we're looking at these civil rights marches and these protests and whatever, you're talking about a city that probably had 150,000 Negroes in it. And you look at that film and you see a good 400 Black folk marching. So King is not beloved. Okay. King is looked at as a troublemaker. In all those things, the only thing that really, Lord knows the white South didn't love King. And if if white folk don't love you, Black folk, by and large, they ain't sticking their neck out to say nothing or do nothing in protection for you. The only thing that really, and I think that you're correct, is that when King bites the hand that has protected him, that's when he went too far. Okay. And it's unfair to really blame LBJ because LBJ inherited Vietnam.
Mhm.
That was an issue that was already going on. And here you have King at the Riverside Baptist Church, and you got to remember, King gave that speech at the Riverside Baptist Church on April 4th, 1967. Okay. King was killed in Memphis, Tennessee on April 4th, 1968. There are no coincidences.
Mm.
Okay. That I ain't gonna study war no more speech. Yeah,
Right.
he did that a year to the day that he was killed. Okay. Um,
Mm.
so I don't see, in death, he became the dreamer. In
Mhm.
death, he became, all the because he can be used politically. Look at, and it's the reason why I call the March on Washington speech when he goes into that riff that Mahalia Jackson keeps egging him on to do. Tell him about the dream, Martin. Tell him about the dream, Martin. Um, that riff has been seized by conservatives and used to fight against what King was actually fighting for. Well, we want to get to a society where people are judged by the content of their character. Well, it's easy for you to say that when you done came in the house and then stole all the shit. Now you're talking about, look, let's let all these B&Es go.
Right.
Okay, why are you still talking about old stuff?
Mhm.
Come on.
Mm. 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 Very, very, very interesting. And then Niggerism celebrates the symbols,
Hmm?
a street name, a mural, a holiday, while ignoring substance, contracts, land, ownerships, police brutality. They say they give us the symbol and they keep the substance.
I don't
When
even.
will the masses of Black people be able to say, I ain't taking that shit no more. You got to come better than that.
I mean, I don't see them giving you a symbol. I see our people creating these symbols. If you go to Bedford Stuyvesant,
Mm-hmm,
Brooklyn,
mm-hmm,
the land of Biggie,
mm-hmm,
they got murals of Biggie everywhere. White folk ain't put them murals up.
mm-hmm.
Black folk put those murals up. Okay, those tokenary things of, yeah, I remember. I saw something on a couple months ago on Facebook that I found difficult to believe,
Mm.
that they actually have a way now where when people die, they putting angel wings on these Negroes' backs and they flying off somewhere like they on
What?
their way to heaven. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You had to look for it. Um,
Mm.
these I believe, I know that we get duped into those things solely because we don't understand the science of racial uplift or revolution. We'll understand the science behind it. So you'll wind up finding these very tokenary things that make you feel better. Okay.
Mm.
Regardless of what you want to say, Patrice Lumumba is dead.
Right.
Nkrumah is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Sekou Touré, dead. Huey P. Newton, dead. Now we can remember them, but those remembrances are going to be minuscule in regards to us being able to put together a program and advance that program. You
Mm.
know, it's what's in your mind. It's what you've gotten a taste for.
Mm.
And I don't want to hear Black folk in particular talk about they don't have time for to study, time to learn. When they make religious time, they religiously make time to go to brunch, okay, to go to the club, to go to to this and that. And I'm not a member of a fraternity or a sorority, definitely not a sorority, but I often don't speak upon about them because I'm not one of them and I don't know exactly what it is that they're doing. But I see a whole lot of Negro tribal ring stomping going on. And I think it'd be much more beneficial if they suppressed that and kept that behind closed doors and start putting out videos talking about what their organization really stands for.
Mm.
Instead of just jumping around. You got who is it? Who's the cats that do the little shimmy? The Q dogs jumping all around, hopping around to Atomic Dog. But what do you stand for? It reminds me in many ways of one of the worst things that history has done for the Black Panther Party. Show them with those guns and those berets and those black leather jackets. What was their ideology? What did they stand for? Okay. What is dialectical materialism? What is intercommunalism? You don't know, but you do know. Oh, yeah, and them brothers look sharp. They look sharp. Denigrating people like Angela Davis with all that she's accomplished and written and said to a hairstyle. The symbols. It's cool. It's cool to remember and acknowledge them. I got some symbols around here. But that doesn't preclude me from sitting down at least 4 to 5 hours every day and writing.
Right, definitely. I want us to look at one of the speeches you don't like. I'm not gonna say you don't like, but the outcome or the disagreement that you have with Malcolm over the house nigga in the field.
Oh man. You know what, man? You hit me last week with Donald Trump trying to say that I was the one supporting Trump when you know it was you supporting Trump. Okay. I need you to unearth that tape because you was the one that was doing that because you did not want Kamala to be the president. And he jumped on the other side and he was a Trumper. He was a Trumper. And once again, my problem with Malcolm's speech, with his analogy, is that it is not historically correct. And it has been seized by Black folk who know no better and used to further divide our people.
All right, hold on. Let's go take a look at this and come back and talk about it.
To understand this, you have to go back to what young brother here referred to as the house Negro and the field Negro back during slavery. There was two kinds of slaves. There was the house Negro and the field Negro. The house Negro, they lived in the house with master. They dressed pretty good. They ate good because they ate his food, what he left. They lived in the attic or the basement, but still they lived near their master. And they loved their master more than the master loved himself. They would give their life to save their master's house quicker than the master would. The house Negro, if the master said, we got a good house here, the house Negro said, yeah, we got a good house here. Whenever the master said we, he said we. That's how you can tell a house Negro. If the master's house caught on fire, the house Negro would fight harder to put the blaze out than the master would. If the master got sick, the house Negro would say, what's the matter, boss? We sick. We sick. He identified himself with his master more than his master identified with himself. And if you came to the house Negro and said, let's run away, let's escape, let's separate, that house Negro would look at you and say, man, you crazy. What you mean separate? Where is there a better house than this? Where can I wear better clothes than this? Where can I eat better food than this? That was that house Negro. In those days, he was called a house nigger. And that's what we call him today because we still got some house niggers running around here. This modern house Negro loves his master He wants to live near him. He'll pay 3 times as much as the house is worth just to live near his master. And then brag about, I'm the only Negro out here. I'm the only one on my job. I'm the only one in this school. You're nothing but a house Negro. And if someone come to you right now and say, let's separate, you say the same thing that the house Negro said on the plantation. What you mean separate? From America? This good white man? Where you gonna get a better job than you get here? I mean, this is what you say. I ain't left nothing in Africa. That's what you say, while you left your mind in Africa. On that same plantation, there was the field Negro. The field Negro, those were the masses. There was always more Negroes in the field than there was Negroes in the house. The Negro in the field caught hell. He ate leftovers. In the house, they ate high up on the hog. The Negro in the field didn't get nothing but what was left of the insides of the hog. They call them chitlins nowadays. In those days, they call them what they were, guts. That's what you were, a gut eater. And some of you all still gut eaters. The field Negro was beaten from morning till night. He lived in a shack, in a hut. He wore cast-off clothes. And he hated his master. I say he hated his master. He was intelligent. That house Negro loved his master. But that field Negro, remember, they were in the majority. And they hated the master. When the house caught on fire, he didn't try and put it out. That field Negro prayed for a wind, for a breeze. When the master got sick, the field Negro prayed that he died. If someone come to the field Negro and said, let's separate, let's run, he didn't say, where are we going? He said, any place is better than here. You got field Negroes in America today. I'm a field Negro. The masses are the field Negroes. When they see this man's house on fire, you don't hear these little Negroes talking about our government is in trouble. They say the government is in trouble. Imagine a Negro, our government. I even heard one say, our astronauts. They won't even let him near the plant. And our astronauts, our Navy, that's a Negro that's out of his mind. That's a Negro that's out of his mind. Just as the slave master in that day used Tom, the house Negro, to keep the field Negroes in check, the same old slave master today has Negroes who are nothing but modern Uncle Toms, 20th century Uncle Toms, to keep you and me in check, keep us under control, keep us passive and peaceful and nonviolent. That's Tom making you nonviolent. It's like when you go to the dentist and the man is going to take your tooth. You're going to fight him when he starts pulling. So they squirt some stuff in your jaw called Novocaine to make you think they're not doing anything to you. So you sit there, and because you got all that Novocaine in your jaw, you suffer peacefully. Blood running all down your jaw. And you don't know what's happening, because someone has taught you to suffer peacefully. The white man do the same thing to you in the street. When he gonna want to put knots on your head and take advantage of you and don't have to be afraid of you fighting back, to keep you from fighting back, he get these old religious Uncle Toms to teach you and me. They're just like Novocaine, suffer peacefully. Don't stop suffering, just suffer peacefully. As Reverend Cleave pointed out, let your blood flow in the streets. This is a shame. And you know he's a Christian preacher. If it's a shame to him, you know what it is to me. Because nothing in our book, the Quran, as you call it, Koran, teaches us to suffer peacefully. Our religion teaches us to be intelligent, be peaceful, be courteous, obey the law, respect everyone. But if someone puts his hand on you, send him to the cemetery. That's a good religion. In fact, that's that old-time religion. That's the one that Ma and Pa used to talk about. An eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth, and a head for a head, and a life for a life. That's a good religion. And then anybody, no one resents that kind of religion being taught but a wolf who intends to make you his meal. This is the way it is with the white man in America. He's a wolf, and you a sheep. Anytime a shepherd, a pastor, teach you and me not to run from the white man, and at the same time teachers don't fight the white man, he's a traitor to you and me. Don't lay down our life all by itself. No. Preserve your life. It's the best thing you got. And if you got to give it up, let it be even Stephen. The slave master took Tom and dressed him well and fed him well and even gave him a little education. Gave him a long coat and a top hat and made all the other slaves look up to him. Then he used Tom to control them. The same strategy that was used in those days is used today by the same white man. He take a Negro, so-called Negro, and make him prominent, build him up, publicize him, make him a celebrity, and then he becomes a spokesman for Negroes and a Negro leader. I would like to just mention one thing else quickly, and that is the method that the white man uses, how the white man uses these big guns or Negro leaders against the black revolution. They're not a part of the black revolution. They're used against the black revolution. When Martin Luther King failed to desegregate Albany, Georgia, the civil rights struggle in America reached its low point. King became bankrupt almost as a leader. Plus, even financially, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference was in financial trouble, plus it was in trouble, period, with the people when they failed to desegregate Albany, Georgia.
Other Negro civil rights leaders of so-called national stature became fallen idols. As they became fallen idols, began to lose their prestige and influence, local Negro leaders began to stir up the masses. In Cambridge, Maryland, Gloria Richardson. In Danville, Virginia, and other parts of the country, local leaders begin to stir up our people at the grassroots level. This was never done by these Negroes whom you recognize of national stature. They controlled you, but they never incited you or excited you. They controlled you, they contained you. They kept you on the plantation. As soon as King failed in Birmingham, Negroes took to the streets. King got out and went out to California to a big rally and raised about, I don't know how many thousands of dollars. Come to Detroit and had a march and raised some more thousands of dollars. And recall, right after that, Wilkins attacked King, accused King and the Corps of starting trouble everywhere and then making the NAACP get him out of jail and spend a lot of money, and then he accused King and Corps of raising all the money and not paying it back. This happened. I got it in documented evidence in the newspaper. Roy started attacking King, and King started attacking Roy, and farmers started attacking both of them. And as these Negroes of national stature begin to attack each other, they begin to lose their control of the Negro masses. And Negroes was out there in the streets. They was talking about, we're going to march on Washington. By the way, and right at that time, Birmingham had exploded, and the Negroes in Birmingham, remember, they also exploded. They began to stab the crackers in the back and bust them upside the head. Yes, they did. That's when Kennedy sent in the troops down in Birmingham. So, and right after that, Kennedy got on the television and said, this is a moral issue. That's when he said he's going to put out a civil rights bill. And when he mentioned civil rights bill and the Southern crackers started talking about they were going to boycott it or filibuster it, then the Negroes started talking about what? We're going to march on Washington, march on the Senate, march on the White House, march on the Congress, and tie it up, bring it to a halt. Don't let the government proceed. They even said they was going to go out to the airport and lay down on the runway and don't let no airplanes land. I'm telling you what they said. That was revolution. That was revolution. That was the Black Revolution. It was the grassroots out there in the street. Scared the white man to death. Scared the white power structure in Washington, D.C. to death. I was there. When they found out that this black steamroller was going to come down on the Capitol, they called in Wilkins. They called in Randolph. They called in these national Negro leaders that you respect and told them, call it off. Kennedy said, look, you all letting this thing go too far. And old Tom said, boss, I can't stop it because I didn't start it.
All right, so that was Malcolm, House Negro, Field Negro. And we're going to have to do a part 2 because I went and got from our last conversation some of these old house niggas, Jim Clyburn, David Scott, Sanford Bishop, Hakeem Jeffries, and we're going to break these house niggas on down and see exactly what's what. But just a quick recap because we were summing up. We're over our time, but Doc, even when he was explaining the house nigger and the field nigger, to me it was like he was given definitions of what these roles and how they respond. So by definition, you will look and be able to point out who's who, not necessarily because he in the house and he's in the literal field. You could be in the literal field, but you fit this description of what the house nigga is. See, that's how I took it, not necessarily saying if you live in a house, you're the house nigga.
But see, if he had presented it that way, I wouldn't have a problem with it. But the fact that he's talking about a historical occurrence in reality, that's where my problem comes in. I understand, obviously I understand what Malcolm was trying to say and what he was trying to do, but he didn't say what you just said.
Mhm.
And that's the issue. I mean, if you go back and you look at Nat's rebellion in Southampton, Virginia, it had been compromised several times by some field nigger. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So think about being a young girl in a who's the sister that was in the house, Linda Brent, okay, Harriet Jacobs. She's 12 years old working in the house. Okay, mulatto girl. The owner finds her attractive, and she says, everywhere I turned, he was there to say something disgustingly sexual to me. So, and we know that many of the quote unquote house slaves also were known for poisoning their masters. So if he had said it the way that you said it, I wouldn't have a problem with that. But because he didn't, and I'm listening to what he said, not what he meant, not what he intended, not what a person with common sense would be able to deduce from what he said. Because I understand and recognize that common sense ain't all that common amongst our people.
True.
So they will take it, they become literalist at that moment. And it does a lot of damage in regards to being able to discern who is a quote unquote house nigger or a field nigger. When you look at it, is the standard for being a house nigger having a prominent political position? Because that's what, if you're not careful, is being espoused. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
Versus a house nigger being somebody who's out here robbing, stealing, raping, acting like they, bad Leroy Brown and disrupting everything in the community. That to me would be somebody who's a house nigger, according to the character traits of not uplifting Black America. And that's where my problem begins and ends with Malcolm's analogy.
Okay. Perfect. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and shift into closing comments, and hopefully we can come back and deal with this subject before next Saturday, because I would like to finish it up. But yeah, so Doc, closing comments, can you also address if there was to be a civil war in America, whites versus blacks, should the black kill the house nigger first, or the ones who are in this niggerism, they have this disease? Do you kill them first, or do you kill the ones who come in and kill you?
Or do you kill the ones that what?
Or do you kill the white folks that's coming to kill you first?
No, you need to clean up the house first, because those flaws within the house are going to in every way endanger everything that you're trying to do. So if you have a reliable way of discerning who's going to betray, then you need to address that first. It's definitely in my top 10. It may actually be in my top 3 principles of life, comes from, ironically, Woody Hayes, Ohio State football coach. Coach Hayes said this. He said, you win with people. And so the idea of surrounding yourself with good people who are committed to what it is that you're doing is immeasurable. So you have to clean up your house first before you're trying to address anything outside of the house. Okay. So they have to be addressed quick, fast, in a hurry, in a decisive manner, if a civil war is going to occur, because they are like so many other Black folk that I know. They're too poor. And when I say poor, I'm not just talking about economics. I'm talking about morality. I'm talking about intelligence. I'm talking about smarts. They're at such a deficit in those areas that they don't have the ability to be loyal to anything. So as soon as an entity comes, and this is what we often see with African leaders, as soon as an entity comes and is able to offer them, and I mean them, not the people, but them, enough resources to alleviate all the pain and struggle and uncertainties economically in their lives, they take it because they're too poor in so many areas to stand up for their people. And that's a shame for our people, but we see it happen every day. How many African leaders have we seen deposed, and all of a sudden this Negro appears in Switzerland in a damn mansion?
Yep.
You know, he can't go back home to his homeland, but he good. And so without that commitment and integrity to a higher cause, there's nothing you can do with those people. Those people are, number one, a loss for you, and they are going to, in every way, sink whatever ship that you have going, because they never intended from the very beginning to do anything together. It's kind of like, and I'll end with this. It's kind of like what a boxer said about Don King. He said, now you can get rich with Don King. He said, you can make some money with Don King. He said, but the problem is he's going to make money regardless if you do or not. And that's what they are. They're always looking out for themselves first. Now, if we all can reach the shore and, and I get mine, okay, I'm good with that. But if me getting mine means that we don't reach the shore, I'm good with that as well. So you have to address the enemy within before you do, anything else. And I just hope that the development of the system or the evaluation criterion to determine who is for the people or against the people is accurate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And Doc, and that's the thing that I know that this conversation has to get into, because just because somebody say, oh, that's just a nigga, because you don't understand what he's going, you don't understand what he's doing, you don't understand what's going on. So in your limited understanding, you may think he's something that he's really not.
Mm-hmm. And you're going to make crucial life and death decisions that will impact Black folk for generations based upon limited information.
Exactly.
And that's truly frightening and unfortunate.
Exactly. Wow. So yeah, we're going to get back into it, because this is something that has to be understood.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to do something this week, let's do it.
Okay.
I'm not on duty this week, so so we can do something. I'm gearing up. Thanksgiving, brother. And I'm getting my menu together. I went and bought my Uncle Lou's triple clean chitlins. Like about 20 pounds of that. I'm gonna go in the back, because I ain't even got to go in the back, because I know my wife is listening to this right now. So this is her her notice that this week she gonna be cleaning chitlins. And I want to clean right and exact. Okay, I'm gonna get it, get it right, girl. That's what I'm talking about. And I'm gonna make some potato salad so I can cut some of that grease off of them chitlins, and we can, make them a happy home. So I would say catch me before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Because Thanksgiving, I'm probably gonna have a significant bout of the itis going on and all that. So let me know what you want to do.
Okay, definitely.
You know.
Definitely.
If I need to send you some up there, you let me know.
No, I'm good on chitlins.
Oh, you good? Okay, man.
I ain't never had it, don't never want it.
Don't sleep on. Oh, well, you don't know what you're missing, man. Don't sleep on no wrinkles, man. You gotta get you some wrinkles in your life, brother.
No,
Get some
sir.
hot sauce and some onions going on there, bro. Oh. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, is Tuesday good? You want to do Tuesday?
Yeah, man, I'm good, man. You
Okay.
let me know, man. You let me know about Tuesday. I should have a taster plate of chitlins ready for me to go on Tuesday. I'll eat them on on screen if that's what the people want. You got to get the people what they want. Let me know. Let me know. Those who are sitting around here thinking that that I'm betraying the race, I'm not gonna have no regular turkey. I'm not gonna eat no white meat from the turkey. I'm gonna just have turkey wings. Okay, so put that in the positive category of what I'm doing. I can taste some chitlins right now.
Trick Wilson, the devil is a lie.
Girl, you better get your chitlin cleaning hands ready. You better get your magnifying glasses together. Yeah, I'm gonna be at Walmart bright and early, getting them.
All right. Well, we thank y'all for listening. We thank y'all for coming out and joining us again. We'll be live again Tuesday, 7 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Eastern, and we'll be dealing with part 2 of the pathology of treason, niggerism. So as we always say, you kill the nigger in you, I'm going to kill the nigger in me, and our God will reign supreme. We are Black first, today, tomorrow, and forever. Love you, family. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom.
Peace.
So you better get the message and get it straight. You're going to need some bridge work. It's simple as that. Because we're living in judgment.